After losing 3 straight, the Houston Rockets finally showed up last night, taking Game 4 at home. We now look ahead to Game 5 with our NBA handicapper, Dave Golikoff. Dave, that was one hell of a game last night. The Rockets came out hot and never let up. Now, I realize they were out, the Warriors without Stephen Curry for a little bit, but even when he was in the game, this was all Rockets. What changed for these teams last night, Dave, and how did Houston put together such a convincing win?
So Houston shot an absolutely ridiculous percentage from the field, and they came out like they were shot out of a cannon in period 1 in the first quarter. They had 45 points in that quarter, shot 8 of 9 from 3. Josh Smith was unconscious in that quarter, I think 5 of 5. If they can do the same in game number 5, they can definitely perform well. The trouble is that the Rockets had such a huge lead in this game, and they weren't able to pull away. I mean, eventually, yes, they pulled away, but Curry gets hurt, and even so, the Warriors managed to close this gap. I think it was down to 6 at one point by the time Curry came back. A little bit disappointing for the Rockets. I know eventually they pulled away, but they were forced to have a real sweat here, and that's kind of surprising given how they played in the first quarter. So I think if they can maintain those shooting percentages, and look, we did see them, go for long periods of stretch where they were just they couldn't miss. We saw that in the last series against the Clippers. If they can carry that over to game number 5, they're definitely going to have a shot.
All right, now looking forward to that Game 5 back in Oakland, you got to think the Warriors are coming into this with a bit of a different attitude than they did in Game 4. They were essentially run off the court last night, outscored, outplayed, and they almost lost their star player. See them coming out tomorrow a little shell-shocked, and I believe this will only serve to further damage their performance. I think they are a better team, and therefore I am looking for them to win. But what do you expect from them in Game 5, and what's the value play, Dave?
Well, I'm kind of torn on where to bet this game, but in general, I think that the Warriors have been the better team throughout this series. Yes, the Rockets were very close in games 1 and 2, but I think that was partially because of the Warriors' turnovers. So we saw at times in those games when the Warriors in games 1 and 2 cut off the turnovers, made that huge comeback in game 1. The game was tied late in the fourth quarter. They cut down the turnovers. They end up, they were covering for a very short period of time. Of course, turnovers allowed the Rockets to get back into it and cover. Same was the story in game number 2 as well. When they cut off the turnovers, they were the better team significantly, double-digit leads. When they start with the turnovers again, that's when the Rockets got back into it and nearly stole that game. Game 3 was the cleanest performance by the Warriors. They cut things, cut down the mistakes, and they ran the Rockets off the court. So what has to happen in Game 5? Well, I like the Warriors because I just don't think the Rockets shoot like this. I don't think the Warriors are going to give them as clean looks. I don't think the Rockets are going to be as careful with the basketball. I think the Warriors will be more careful with the basketball. We even saw in game number 4, even when the Rockets play their best and the Warriors are struggling, the Warriors can still hang around. So, I mean, again, they cut the lead to a very narrow margin given what the Rockets were up by. So I think the Rockets are looking at needing to play like they did in game number 4 again and hope that the Warriors have an off night. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it reverts back to the norm, which is Golden State playing really well, the Rockets really depending on the shots. I don't think some of those shots are going to fall as they did in game 4, and that's why I like the Warriors to close this out, win and cover in game number 5.
All right, Dave and I on board with the Warrior train still for Game 5, looking for them to win and cover en route to the NBA Finals. Thank you, Dave, and remember to keep it locked right here at SBRvideo.com for all of our playoff winning picks.